Ground with businesses on the ground. This is the third ministerial trade mission, ministerial-led trade mission into Guyana. And we're seeing some faces that have come back. I think it's maybe the third time for some entities, it's maybe the first for others, but certainly, Minister, this is happening. And so, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'm going to jump right into our session this morning. It is indeed my pleasure to welcome to the stage Senator the Honorable Aubyn Hill. Minister Hill has dubbed the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce the Business Ministry. And ladies and gentlemen, that is not by accident. We are about business. Senator Hill has been in the fighting for over many decades. Senator Hill has been, he's seasoned, ladies and gentlemen. Minister Hill knows what he's about. Minister Hill would have lived in over 80 countries, Minister, visited over 80 countries, 120, ladies and gentlemen.
Lived in 9, visited over 100.
Lived in 9, visited over 120. You know, when we started this journey with Minister Hill a couple of years ago, we would have read Minister's bio, and Minister's bio is very detailed. It tells you about the man that he is. But I think all of us having interacted with Minister over these past few years, only one word comes to mind. 2, get it done. Get it done. And Minister is about getting it done. Minister Hill, thank you, sir, for guiding us and helping us to get it done. And ladies and gentlemen, this morning, I'd like Minister Hill to open the stage, open the floor this morning to help guide us through how we're going to get it done. Senator the Honorable Aubyn Hill. Thank you.
You know, Kelly Dawn, even my dead mother would be very proud of how you. Thank you so much, very kind of you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed my great pleasure to be leading this delegation, another delegation to Guyana. It's the 3rd in October of 2022, soon, 2 months after I became minister. I did my first business delegation. I don't take trade missions. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade will be here later today. She does trade treaties and all that. I do business. So every time I've been, I've taken business people with me. The second one was in early 2023, I think, February, so it took 73. This time we have pretty close to 60 by the time everybody comes here. And business to business meetings are set. But one of the things that there are many things that made me love Guyana. Clearly, I lived in the oil states in the Middle East, in the Arabian Gulf for 21 years. I think I have a good understanding of oil. And I understand what oil means to Guyana. When a state becomes an oil state like Guyana is going to become, the changes are immense, and very often, even the people who are participants in the change don't quite get it because they've never been there. Except Dr. Ashni Singh has been there. We came, and after I met him, it was just like we have been friends ever since. But I want to tell you who he is, so I better read it so I get it accurate, because he's done a lot of things that only a brief sketch I'll give you here. Currently serving his 3rd term as Minister of Finance, and formerly the Minister of Finance during the People's Progressive Party, Civics, that's PPPCS, 2 previous terms in office. Dr. Singh was first appointed as Minister of Finance on September 9, 2006, so he's had a long experience at it through difficult times, all the ministry of the 2007, 2008, 2009 financial meltdown, and served continuously in that capacity until May 2015. When he left ministerial office in 2015, he was recruited by the International Monetary Fund, where he worked for 5 years on a diverse range of country issues in Africa, the Middle East, Central Asia, and Europe, until he took up the current appointment, which commenced in November of 2020. During his previous tenure in his capacity as Minister of Finance, Dr. Singh chaired the 2007 Commonwealth Finance Ministers meeting, as well as the Commonwealth Ministerial that's sustainability forum between April 2008 and 2009. He also represented, and once again now represents Guyana on the board of the governors of the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank Group, the Inter-American Development Bank, and the Caribbean Development Bank. He understands finance, but I'll tell you why he does as well. He earned his Doctor of Philosophy, his PhD degree in accounting and finance. He understands accounting and finance from the University of Lancaster in the United Kingdom. When we first met, and because of my own background, we didn't waste any time. We got to discussion of one. And we got to the fact that which countries have become all states and what have they done with the money. We went from the range, and I won't tell you who we see at the bottom of the pile of misusing their money, but we went right to the top as the one that has used its money best. And it's funny enough, not Saudi Arabia or Qatar, because they have endless money in Kuwait. It was Norway. Norway has the best run sovereign fund in the world. And I was so pleased when I didn't have to ask. Dr. Singh said to me, this is the model we're going to follow. Well, Guyana is the country in the Caribbean that I have said to my Prime Minister, we need to link closely because, and I said to Leo yesterday, Leo is investing a whole lot of money across this country. He's here for that, and those meetings. I said to him yesterday, we need to link with Guyana in such a way that when they keep growing at 40, 50, 30% over the next number of years, all we want is that we benefit, our GDP benefits by about 3 to 5%. That's not unreasonable to ask. My pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce you to Dr. Minister of Finance for that.
Thank you very much, Senator Hill, and my dear and good friend, President Aubyn. Let me start by saying that I believe you would have just managed to bring 2 dead mothers from. Thank you very much for your very gracious introduction. And my instinctive preference was a very brief introduction. But in one particular respect, I was happy that you went back a little bit to the history, spoke about me doing this job for the first time since 2006. And I was, as you said it, I thought that some good can come of it because I returned to that subject. But let me first of all welcome you and this large and diverse delegation to Guyana. Those of you who've been here before would know that I have always availed myself of the opportunity to meet with the team visiting. Aubyn and I have had an excellent relationship since we met for the very first time. And we in Guyana are extremely grateful for the interest that's being shown in Guyana by companies in Jamaica, elsewhere in the region, and worldwide, but in particular by Jamaican companies, judging from the size and the diversity of the delegations that have been coming on these successive missions. So welcome on behalf of the President and the entire government and the people of Ghana. Welcome to Ghana. We trust that you will, those of you, I'm hoping that none of you is coming for the first time, but if you are, welcome to Ghana, and we trust this will be the first of many visits. And those of you who are here on repeat visits, welcome once again to Ghana. I mentioned that I was going to pick up on Aubyn's point about the history. And I will for the following reason. Much is being said about Guyana today during the news. And there are weekly headlines in mainstream global publications speaking about the fastest growing economy in the world, etc. Everybody knows, and if I were to just repeat statistics, you're all perhaps already familiar with. 2020, we grew by 43.5% in terms. 2021, we grew by 20.1%. 2022, by 63.3%. 2023, by 33%. 2024, we projected to grow by 34.3%. And this extraordinary rate of growth is projected to be sustained well into the medium term, with projected real growth above 25% for the next 4 years, at least. A lot of this is, of course, premised on the discovery and commencement of extraction of oil. We started out with one floating production and storage offshore vessel, FPSO, as we are called, the offshore platforms. We started out with one whose capacity was 120,000 barrels a day. We expanded to a second whose capacity was 220,000 barrels a day. And a third whose capacity was also 220,000 barrels. It's the result that across those 3 platforms, we are now producing in excess of 560,000 barrels of oil per day. We have FPSOs under construction, on order, to be delivered over the next, we have a timeline over the next 3 to 4 years. That will see us by 2027 producing 1.2 million barrels of oil per day. And that is based on current proven reserves in one production block. Exploration is ongoing in that block, the prospect of additional positive discoveries, and exploration is ongoing in other blocks, including an additional 8 adjacent blocks that we have just gone out to international tender with, and in relation to which we're in the process of concluding transactions with a number of international oil companies from around the world, including several of the oil majors. And I add the latter points really to emphasize that while our firm projections are 1.2 billion barrels of oil per day by 2027, the likelihood is that that projection can only be revised upwards and outwards, meaning producing more for longer, because there are additional exploration activities that are ongoing. You're all in business. You know far better than I do what this would mean for the Guyanese economy. Because every production platform offshore automatically and necessarily translates into demand for goods and services onshore. And several of the most recognizable Tier 1 contractors to the oil industry have already set up or are in the process of setting up operations in Guyana. whether it be Halliburton, Schlumberger, Baker Hughes, and several others, having come to Guyana, recognizing scale, scope, and anticipated duration of ExxonMobil's operations in Guyana, possibly other operators, other blocks. All of these major international companies have come together, have established a presence in Guyana, physical presence, have commenced operation, are servicing ExxonMobil out of their Guyana operations now. And in some cases are also providing services to the sub-region, bringing business to Guyana out there. It needs to provide from other locations. Needless to say, this is a remarkable, it's an extraordinary story. It has led to rapid expansion in demand in every single sector. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute, because I want to go back history first, work my way down. So these developments have resulted in extraordinary growth in demand in every single sector. I will come back to that. But I was glad that Aubyn spoke of the history, because while this oil story is widely told and much known, the Guyana story, the Guyana economic story of today, started at its genesis long before oil was discovered. And I always take advantage of any available opportunity to tell that story, albeit briefly, because it is important far more than we do, on technology, the far exceeds anything we have. Studies have been carried out for decades. The fact that Exxon came to that under the previous PDP government was not an accidental occurrence or an occurrence inspired only by the fact that there was oil under the ground. Many of you are familiar with the economic history of that. We went through the 1970s and the 1980s, an extremely traumatic period economically, during which the entire economy was nationalized, brought under state control, likely as a consequence of being brought under state control, was mismanaged and bankrupted. The institutions of state were undermined and effectively destroyed, and Guyana became almost a pariah. You know this, remember, embarrassment, I should say. Guyana became almost a pariah, bankrupt and a pariah. And having been completely bankrupted, and the institutions of state have been completely destroyed, including democratic institutions, no respect for democracy. I don't think this is a closely guided secret anyone. In 1992, the international community, prompted largely by global advocacy by the party with which I have the privilege of being associated, insisted on electoral reform. And those electoral reforms would result in the restoration, the holding of Guyana's first democratic election in 1990. Internationally supervised elections, to observer missions from the OAS, the Commonwealth, CARICOM, etc. That saw the party with which I am associated being returned to power, first time since 1964. And we set about an aggressive agenda to rebuild Guyana, restoring the integrity of the institutions of state, the electoral institutions like the elections commission, judiciary, other institutions associated with accountability like the office, strengthening the parliamentary, the operations of the parliament office, the parliamentary system of parliament, discharge its important function, reforming the legal framework, to transition the economy back to an economy driven by private investment, private capital, implementing new financial sector legislation, privatizing most of the public enterprises, putting Guyana on the restoring Guyana's credibility as a destination for investment, restoring all of the main prerequisites that are necessary to make your jurisdiction a jurisdiction attractive to foreign direct investment and domestic private investment too. We set about this task in earnest. And I dare say much was achieved. By the time we would emit office in 2050, we had achieved a decade of uninterrupted positive economic growth. And that is significant because that was the decade of the global financial crisis and multiple global commodity shocks. So that was the decade when economies around the world came under extraordinary financial sector pressures, collapses of financial institutions worldwide, and even within the region, we were not insulated from the contagion. You might recall, for example, in the region, the developments with the PICO, LICO, for example. We recall also the impact on several of our jurisdictions as a result of the global recessions of that period. We maintained positive and very respectable positive economic growth throughout that. Before a single barrel of oil was found. But during that period, or during that period of reform, of commencement, Guyana having been restored as a credible place to do business and a credible destination, had by that time attracted the Exxon Mobils of the world. And Exxon had come to Guyana and started exploring for oil. So even before we found oil, We have already committed ourselves to ensuring that we make Guyana an attractive place to do business. And we have committed ourselves long before we found oil, committed ourselves to make a premier hospitable destination for international and regional investment before we found a single barrel of oil. I'm always at pains to emphasize that. I don't want the Guyana story to be considered only a story about oil. Even at that time, we were at pains to ensure that we do the things that are necessary to diversify the economy, even without an oil sector in existence. Economic diversification, before we started with oil, was a preeminent policy objective for our country. And so, the discovery and production of oil obviously is an extremely positive thing. But what it does is it helps us to do what we were already doing, except that it helps us to do it a lot more quickly and perhaps a lot better. So the build out of infrastructure, for example, which we were already committed to doing at the start, we have resumed doing, having returned to office, and we're doing very aggressively, but we can do a lot more aggressively now than we were able to do prior to the discovery of oil. So it's not a new objective, it's aggressively. The promotion of a competitive non-oil economy. Well, prior to 2015, the economy was a non-oil economy. Diversifying that non-oil economy was already a policy. What we're able to do now is to accelerate the critical investments to realize the effect of a more competitive non-oil economy. The services sector similarly long recognized the potential of services. What we're able to do now is make the strategic investment in a more aggressive to ensure that services emerge, so to ensure that we emerge as a provider of services. What are some of our priorities now? But first of all, like I said, on the productive side, diversification of the economy, continuing to be a competitive destination investment so that we can have a diversified. Oil will continue to be important for now. We want a globally competitive non-oil economy. There are a number of strategic investments that we are making. And I want very briefly to mention. One, we recognize our geographic location as having strategic value in its own right. Our immediate south is Brazil, so the east is Suriname. And like so many other countries in the Caribbean, historically faced the constraint of small market size. If you're producing goods and services for just about 1 million people, you necessarily will not have economies of scale that you would have if you were producing goods, same goods and services for 30 million. So we see improved connectivity with our neighbors as an important strategic impact. So we're currently working with our colleagues to the east, in fact, that we're just exchanging communications with the Foreign Minister of Suriname tomorrow to advance the process towards the construction of the bridge across the Guyana River, which will provide a physical link between Guyana and Suriname. What that means whatever you are producing in Ghana, you can get into your car or your van or your car, drive to the Suriname and access the entire Suriname market seamlessly, and vice versa. The implications of that would be obvious. We're also currently building out road to Brazil. So you can drive right now. Some of you, I don't know, they have done that. And one of your future visits, we should take you to Chile. But you can physically right now drive the northern Brazil. You literally just take a road going, and the road is there going southwest. Get to the letter on the Guyana side. Literally drive across the bridge on the bridge and you're in Brazil. Drive the second power on Pen, drive on Augusta, onwards to Manaus, and rest of Brazil. People do that routinely. Every weekend, there is a huge stream of traffic back and forth on that bridge as people come from Brazil to Guyana, to shop, but Brazil and vice versa. There are people who live in Guyana and work in Brazil, and there are people who live in Brazil and work. They commute every day for us. But the road is not currently an all-weather, full-scale highway. Some parts of it is what we call a road. It exists, but it's not completely paved. For example, we are paving the entire road. Already started phase 1 from Linden to Magura. We've already started constructing 40 concrete bridges. But all that is will be the paving of the bridges. What does that mean? It means that exactly like you can load up your car and your lorry, Georgetown, and drive to Parmara in Suriname. It also means you can load up your car and lorry or drive to Boa Vista in Brazil and onwards. And vice versa. If you need critical inputs that are available more competitively, or in Suriname, you can source them. So you have the pipeline program. So what those strategic investments do is they immediately open a much larger market for anybody investing and doing business. We're also building out domestically a very aggressive infrastructure agenda, new bridges across the river. 2, in fact, one close to Georgetown and one Linden. Roads to improve connectivity between communities, new 4-lane highways, new community roads, building out social infrastructure, schools and hospitals. Because we want to make sure that our people have world-class social services. We recognize our critical factors for well-being and maintaining an environment where they come to a more comfortable place live and work in. Heavy investment in social infrastructure, roads, schools, hospitals. We're building 12 new hospitals currently across several regions of our country. And in the remote communities, we're building centers that show remote access. These are the far off communities, the forest-based communities around Linden. Aside from transport infrastructure, we're investing heavily in energy. Currently building a 300 megawatt power plant to fuel with gas resources. That's under construction right now. We are working on gone out with a request for proposals for the 100 megawatt hydropower project, which is a project that's been around for minor fault, like fault project. We're doing another, another 100 megawatts or so of solar. So together, we'll probably be installing over the next 3 to 4 years, we'll be installing 500 megawatts of foreign power. And the list goes on. Now, I should mention that what the investment in energy does is that not only does it supply adequate electricity and adequate electricity storage, it's always been a challenge, but it potentially enables us to reduce the cost of electricity for the final consumer by 50%. So we anticipate that once the gas storage project is brought on stream by the end of this year, 2024 or early 2024, we anticipate that that will immediately allow the cost of electricity to final consumers to be reduced. Now, that is not only a benefit to household consumers, but that has an immediate impact on the competitiveness of manufacturing enterprise and of any business for whom electricity is equally. And I could go on sector by sector. These are some of the public sector investments that we're making in infrastructure, roads and bridges, hospitals, and power plants. But on the private side, the private sector, both domestic and international, recognizing this remarkable growth opportunity that lies before them, is also investing in every single sector imaginable. So to give you an example, I don't know how long you had to in advance to book your hotel party.
Some couldn't get it. They didn't respond quickly enough. So I filled out the hotel before they could get it.
But the reality is that if you don't book a room in the Marriott, sometimes in the year, 3 months in advance, you can't get one. And that is if we have a big conference, you have people literally tumbling over each other. We have 8 new internationally branded hotels that are under construction right now. 5 of them. These are Hilton's, Marriott's, Hyatt's, Sheraton, and an Express. 5 of which will be open this year and in about 30 months. Now 30 months starts. What in Guyana, 300 internationally branded. It's a very substantial. And I could potentially have a conversation about every single sector. And I've been very gracious to share a directory with the companies that are here. I don't want to go on for too long because I want to make myself available if you have any questions you wish to ask. But I want to say something that I have said on several occasions previously. And that is the fact that it doesn't matter what you are doing. It doesn't matter whether you are constructing bridges or constructing hotels or supplying hospital equipment or providing online training or making gourmet sandwiches or making exotic coffees and other warm beverages. Doesn't matter what you do, or providing advisory services. Doesn't matter what. Irrespective of what you are producing, the demand in that currently outstrips available supply. Chances are, if you go downstairs, send for a taxi, you're going to have to wait a few minutes for one to get there. Chances are, if in the evening you try to reserve a table at the restaurant, you might get home the challenge getting a table at the restaurant on the flight because there are no tables in restaurants. And that is replicated in every single sector. There is demand for goods and services. The rate of growth in demand for goods and services exceeds current supply. That, of course, itself poses us with challenges from a policy perspective to ensure that we don't run the risk of overheating in the economy. That itself is not more challenging. The rate at which we are producing persons with relevant skills to meet the needs of the labor market, that itself poses a challenge. Training enough, certifying enough skills as quickly as possible. That alone, that itself is a challenge. I will conclude by saying the following, that we recognize the remarkable opportunity before us, but we are mindful not to make the mistake of so many others who have gone this way. So firstly, I emphasize the importance of ensuring that always maintain a competitive economy. I didn't speak about agriculture, but agriculture through production and production. But in addition to ensuring that we maintain a competitive economy, I want also to mention, as a matter of policy, we would like Guyanese companies and nationals to be able to benefit from what is taking place in the oil and gas sector, to be frank. And we see no reason to be shy of the past. We would like Guyanese companies and nationals to benefit from the growth. So, we enacted in 2001 two critical pieces of legislation. One was a new Natural Resource Fund Act for management of the sovereign wealth fund, into which all of our oil revenues go, and from which transfers are made to budget or transfer costs by law. But we also enacted a local content act. What that local content act did was it earmarked 40 categories of goods and services that are bought by the oil and gas sector. 40 critical categories of it. And against each of those, we assigned a floor, a minimum percentage that the oil and gas industry, oil and gas companies, will be required or are thereby required to purchase from companies and nationals. So that builds into the law not only an incentive but a requirement that for those 40 categories of goods, services, that business be given to Guyanese companies. We were not outlandish. We didn't put in there things that we have no capacity to do. We have no capacity to build an offshore vessel. We have no capacity to do subsea bed drilling. So we didn't put things that we have no capacity to do. We put 40 categories of goods and services that we have to, or that we could practically develop them. And I mention this because we have seen tremendous growth in business for Guyanese companies as a result of that from the other. So we've set up a whole architecture where Guyanese companies register for the content certification, etc. And what this has done too is that it has established an incentive for partnership with companies. So that the guys company in this instance is trying to frequent with equity, senior management, and employee composition. So percentage of equity board, percentage of senior management who are that. So the law stipulates criteria that determines a company. And it has resulted in a number of international and regional companies entering strategic partnerships together in order to be able, in many cases, to bring technology that perhaps we don't have, or to bring capital that perhaps a domestic company does not have, foreign company might have. And together be able to realize the opportunities that are presented by this book. I encourage you to study it. Don't confine yourselves to it, because you're by no means confined to those 40 sectors. Let me emphasize to you that, like I said earlier, a few minutes ago, irrespective of the sector in which you are operating, there is business to be done. And I encourage you to invest some time and effort to get to know the landscape. We would be very happy through Jando's counterpart in Guyana who invests. We would be very happy to arrange regular meetings, bilateral business-to-business meetings as well. And I encourage you to do so and fully explore the opportunities that are here. We are open for business. We want to see more Jamaican companies setting up operations, bringing capital together, investing, creating jobs in Ghana, and generating income. We see significant room for companies like many of yours to do exactly. So welcome once again to Guyana. I wish you productive deliberations, and I'm here to support the present questions that you have. And you're in good hands on the Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. We heard a lot, ladies and gentlemen. Let's jump right into the questions. Yes, there are many. I'll start here. Dan.
One thought. Now across the table and our group organic firms on developing consultancy on the one hand and training and of course on the other. So you started thinking about services sector and training, and I wondered if you could just elaborate a little bit on where you see the need for skills, particularly because that's the area that we're.
Okay. Yes.
Congratulations on you. Question is, there's different types of entrepreneurs. There's downstream, midstream. There's also upstream, where, for instance, the type of entrepreneur that goes that infrastructure level and that facilitate entrepreneur, where the engagement needs to be at governmental. What's the best way for companies to support level of free?
Right. One here, Dr. Dad.
I am from my second ministry mission here. I'm from the National Training Agency in Jamaica. And what I wanted to find out, I know there's a secret also here in Guyana, and how part in Jamaica's national training agency could work with the Tibet Council here to expand training in the skills area, especially the technical vocational.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I think to that point, and maybe some more macroeconomic question, but a couple of things. In terms of the sovereign wealth fund, can we expect some of that investment in Jamaica? Additionally, I've been here for a few years now. We're noticing a little bit of labor crunch locally. So maybe to that point in terms of skills training, how is it that Guyana looks to address the labor crunch other than maybe the Venezuelans coming into the country and other territories?
Let's go with one more.
Good morning, Ashni Singh from Atlanta. Speaking of labor, from Atlanta.
What do they do?
So Atlanta provides logistics, software, and automation for ports, for companies. So we want to know, especially as it concerns the labor markets, what are the different labor unions, what is that landscape like? Because one of our softwares that provide scheduling for those labor forces based on the different agreements that are there to ensure fair, equitable, labor scheduling. So we're looking more about here.
So, sorry, maybe we can take another one. Do you want to ask something? Or?
Good morning, Mr. Singh. My name is Navina Wellington Ford from the National Certification Body of Jamaica. The industries that you spoke to, I'm very interested in them because we do quality management system certification, ISO 9001, and also food safety certification. So I was very particularly interested when you brought in the agriculture and agro-processing industry. I'm wanting to know the landscape and the demand as you grow and provide services overseas. Have there been demands in terms of certification? Because I know in terms of oil and gas, there have been some questions that have been asked. So I'm here on this mission, particularly to get an appreciation of what is the demand like, and as a certification body in Jamaica, how is it that we can partner to provide that service?
So I don't maybe one last position. But I would just take this round. I mean, if we have time, one topic. No, you could go ahead. Okay. But after yours, I will answer these. Sure. And if Aubyn would like me to, you are here. We're here for you. But why don't we take this one?
Dr. Singh, I'm here with them. We've invested in one of your local companies, Campings, restaurants. And we're growing the company. We invested in 2020 and it's going very well. Our process is to exit the investment. We're looking at listing on local stock exchanges. And so I remember back in 2002, actually was speaking with the PSOG about making a stock exchange, create a platform to facilitate those kinds of exits. So I'm thinking, can you speak a little bit about some of the work you're doing to develop the Guyana stock exchange in collaboration maybe with the
What the money you invest in?
Well, we have 34 restaurants now, and we're looking to grow also into Guyana to Suriname from Guyana, and then of course move to the rest of the region. We have 23 restaurants in Suriname, and we're going to pull them together into one big company to list on the exchange.
What percentage do you own that?
Right now we're at 70%, but
Jamaica is only about
7%
I was saying we just want to hear that's that one. When we put it at market, we can come down to 51%.
That's intention. That's intention.
Sure. So thank you very much. Let me try to, I took a note of all of this. So first, a question was asked by the Honor School of Business and Management. You would have heard my general observation about training for training and certification as well. Training. So there are, of course, a number of particular areas where there is an especially acute gap in the labor market. Most of these are typically technical and vocational areas. So I think I heard a question from the National Training Agency, Dr. Dyer. So be frank with you, the bulk of the areas where we need skills training lie within that space, technical and vocational. Simply, I can give you some examples of particular categories of skills where there is an immediate need and for which there is inadequate support. So, for example, heavy equipment operators, it might sound like something, not sound like the the most obvious category of skill that you would run out of. But there simply aren't enough heavy equipment operators given what is happening in oil and gas, in construction, mining, etc. And so we have a number of private providers of training programs. And we are, in fact, ourselves through state institutions ramping up our capacity to deliver technical and vocational training, if I can take both questions. There are, in fact, private providers of training, like specialized. So in the oil and gas industry, they have a number of specialized training certifications that are needed before you can get some categories of jobs. Some are things that prior to my involvement in this, I might never have heard of. So not the health and safety ones, but obviously the health and safety ones. But you need also things like to do particular categories of jobs. You need specialized training and certification to work in confined spaces. To be able to go to the FPSO, the offshore platform, before you can any job on the platform, you are required to have a number of specific specialized courses. Give you an example that aroused my curiosity at the very beginning. You have to be able to, I forget what it's called, but it's essentially to be able to escape from a helicopter cockpit in the event of an accident. And so I found myself having to send government auditors to Trinidad and Tobago to be trained and certified to escape a helicopter cockpit, But there are local companies who saw that gap and are now delivering that training in partnership. In fact, this is an example of somebody entered a joint venture. I know of at least one example. Entered a joint venture with a British company and now offers a wide suite of certification in the oil and gas industry in these highly specialized technical and vocational and ancillary capacities, and are doing it with tremendous success. Welding, for example. I visited the facility, the same facility that I'm speaking about. The proprietor showed me his welding, the hall in which he trains welders. He said to me his first cohort of welders, I think it was about 25 of them. He said, people who would have been recruited off the street, you bring them in. I don't mean off the street, literally, perhaps straight out of high school. Came into this welding training course, did this welding training course, and he said every single one went on to very lucrative welding. Immediately left his training and walked into very lucrative training jobs that require skills in welding. And there are a number of these specialized categories of job types where there is need for more skilled people, and there aren't enough of them available. And I'd be happy to have a conversation with you on this. There are several, there is one or two agencies that I know of who've done some work in trying to identify some of the particular skills areas that we're training is needed. But to come back to UV in particular, we also see an opportunity for partnership with UV in some specific areas. So for example, we're in a conversation with UV now over the possibility, I don't think this is Mona though, I think it's in Augustine, on the possibility of training doctors in that. So the UV Medical School delivering its content right here in Guyana, so that we're able to get people graduating as UV trained doctors without having to incur the full cost of relocating to Trinidad. And that is a conversation that is currently ongoing. We anticipate, in fact, very short, we anticipate being able to launch the UV Medical School training capability right here in Berbice to be able to train UV doctors in Berbice. To give you just one example. And so I believe that there is potential for that conversation that we had about other areas in which we get harmed. I can tell you too that we've launched an online academy because we recognize that not everybody will be able to spend their career and go full-time to university. Not everybody lives in proximity to a traditional bricks and mortar university that they can attend face-to-face. And of course, we've learned through COVID that online means of delivery are viable. And so we have also launched the Guyana Online Academy of Learning, through which we're partnering with universities around the world in delivering online degrees, including postgraduate degrees, using the online platform. That has seen thousands of Guyanese persons being able to access online degrees and or specialized or short courses with international universities using the online mode of delivery. And that is also something, and perhaps while you're here, I can arrange for you to meet with the head of the Guyana Online Academy of Learning. So let's arrange that so that you can meet with him and discuss and explore what might be possible in terms of what to be able to deliver online. Okay. And similarly with the Defense Council, Dr. Dyer, we'd be happy to arrange for you to meet with, we can arrange for you to meet with relevant people to speak about what might be some of the specialized areas where you might have Jamaican training providers who might be able to fill a gap that currently exists. We can arrange for you. I did hear the question from the gentleman on the upstream investments. I'm not 100% because upstream means different things in different places. So I'm not 100% sure exactly what it was that you were speaking. I'm sorry? Can you please hear it?
Also from yeah, so a lot of what we offer software infrastructure. So in Jamaica, one of the partner is speaking about someone digital transformation.
Right. Right.
Because we are doing technology and infrastructure, and those security such as thoughts and to engage.
Sure. So okay, that's helpful actually. So I didn't. I mean, obviously, I couldn't address every single subject under in the spectrum, but digitalization and the deployment of digital technologies in government is in fact a specific area of focus and interest. So there are a number of very specific things that we're doing, solutions that we're deploying, whole of government solutions that we're deploying, using technology, typically aimed at improving ease of citizen interaction with government. So for example, there are two single window solutions that we're presenting. One is a single window for trade transactions. This is import and export transactions, where historically multiple government agencies have been involved. Depending on what you're reporting, you could be speaking to not only the customs agency, the TRA, and the Revenue Authority, but you could find yourself speaking with the Food and Drug Administration, Pesticide and Toxicity Control Board, the Central Board of Health, and maybe a few others. And so this oftentimes can be very frustrating for importers, difficult, cumbersome. So we're implementing a single window solution to trade transactions and process through that single window, for want of a better way to say it. We're doing the same with construction permits. So we're implementing a single window for construction permits. Here again, want to build a property in most parts of the country, you need planning permission, you need fire department permission, electrical inspectorate, local government authority to approve your construction. It's a labyrinthine. And so we want similarly to have a single window to submit your application to a single portal. So those are two interagency, almost whole of government solutions that we're working on that are able to deploy technology solutions that we use with business in Ghana. We're open to considering others. The typical route, though, is that we would typically advertise if we're planning to implement a solution openly and then invite competitive proposals. That's the typical. You may have a specific solution that you're already deploying somewhere that might be interested in presenting on solicited proposal, which we would not be averse to looking at. It may very well trigger something in our minds that this is something absolutely essential we never thought about. And we think it's of the highest priority, so we should either advertise or we should. We're open to receiving an unsolicited proposal in that regard, but that would not be the typical route. Typical route would be a government-initiated project that we would advertise and invite companies that use the fund. But we could speak more on that. The gentleman over here asked about the Sovereign Wealth Fund and if you can expect some of that investment in Jamaica. So let me say that we have been very careful in writing the rules governing the sovereign wealth, the natural resource fund. Not only do we require all oil revenue to be deposited in, but we also require that withdrawals can only be made from the fund for purposes of transfer to the budget, subject to a transparent formula that sets a ceiling, and within that ceiling, subject to prior parliamentary approval. And that ensures transparency, so no transfers can be made from the fund to the budget unless you have prior parliamentary approval, and within a transparent, simple, and easily understandable format. So annually, transfers are made from the fund to the budget. That, like I said earlier, has facilitated accelerated investment in infrastructure and social programs. The remainder is saved in the fund and potentially invested. However, the way the law is written currently reflects a deliberate bias towards safety and preserving the capital value of the fund rather than maximization of its investment returns. And so currently, there are extremely rigid rules governing the instruments in which, in fact, the law uses the phrase safe instruments, and it defines safe instruments. And typically those are risk-free instruments. So typically they're sovereign instruments. And that's been the investment strategy and will continue to be the investment strategy until the fund exceeds a certain threshold. So outside of sovereign investments, investment in sovereign instruments, government bonds or government treasury or the like, civil outside of what are essentially risk-free instruments, we are unlikely to see investment of the sovereign wealth fund resources in other investments. Because for the foreseeable future, until the fund exceeds a certain size, like I said, the emphasis is on safety, integrity, and preserving capital value, rather than maximization of return. So at some point in time, perhaps, but not quite as yet. I think we spoke about the labor. I think somebody else asked about the labor market, right? And you are right. I mean, like I said, there are a number of areas where, in fact, there is a shortage of labor. I wouldn't say that, and we are seeing, I mean, there are some categories of labor where you're seeing some price movement as well. Like, for example, skilled construction workers, where wages are keeping because there's such a high demand. Our position is that we want to put as many people to work as possible. So our response is the most aggressive possible training response. Train as many people and encourage them to enter the world of work through whatever means we possibly can. But we are not opposed also to certain specialized skills being brought into Guyana where they're not available and can't be made available on notice. So there are companies in Guyana who are applying for work permits to bring in certain categories of workers that are not available and can't be made available to the domestic workforce in the short term. And we are accommodating those applications. So you are right that given the pace at which we're going, there is an issue there. There is potentially an issue with the labor market. There is a lot of demand for skilled labor, but we see that as an opportunity to put as many Guyanese people in work. And we intend to seize that opportunity as fully as we possibly can. The young lady from Atlanta, right? Right. So here again, you mentioned you're in software. Well, you heard me speak about some of the government-wide solutions. I know that you really, your space is workforce management type of software. I would say to you that, your potential market is more likely to be in the private sector than in the government. I would urge you to speak with counterparts in the industry in Guyana, people who are also working in that space. Speak with the leadership of the private sector. I see some representatives of the local chambers and other private sector business board organizations present. And introduce yourselves to them to explore what possibilities might exist. With any place else, I would say to you that obviously the government is a significant employer. We are ourselves a significant employer. We already have applications to manage on our side. But there's potentially I think for types of applications. But you need to speak to your potential audience. On the ISO question, I'm glad that you mentioned it because one of the things that has happened with the emergence of oil and gas is the emphasis on quality and certification. I say to people that in the good old days, you could leave school, go to your uncle's welding shop, pick up 2 welding torches, hit them together once or twice, and present yourself as a welder to the rest of the world. And we all know people who did that, right? And so those perhaps are the good or innocent old days. Regrettably, you can't get a job as a welder with ExxonMobil or any of their tier one contractors unless you have certification. And so what is happening now is a much greater demand for certification quality. And a number of companies are going now and applying now and obtaining ISO certificate, relevant ISO certification. We have in Guyana a Guyana National Bureau of Standards, which is the custodian of the ISO standards in Guyana. But we also have private companies that prepare companies for the certification and guide them through the process and assist them in obtaining the certification. And there are local providers who do that. And I'm sure the Chamber would be happy to introduce you to some of them so that you can be better acquainted with the space here and who's providing what and who has the capacity to do what, etc. So that's what the landscape looks like in Guyana. The regulatory body, which is the GNBF, I suspect Jamaica has.
Yes.
You have the equivalent. And then local providers who do the training, do the audits, the implementation. So I would encourage you to meet as many of them as you possibly can. But I see the president of the council that comes here as well. So I can have him introduce you to some of the people who are working in that space as well. So that I would encourage you. And then finally, I think Estelio Williams, who already has a significant footprint in Guyana through Cabex restaurants. You asked a very important question. Let me be frank with you. The stock exchange, we have a stock exchange. But the stock exchange in Guyana is could benefit from some development. Let me put it like this way, where I see a television camera staring right back at me.
Jamaica Stock Exchange is with us as well. They're talking to you.
That's good. The stock exchange in Guyana, the Guyana Stock Exchange, is not operating at the level that we would like to see it operate. We would like to see, there aren't many companies listed, and there isn't trading depth as well. It's a very shallow market. The volumes of trading are very thin. So it's not a very liquid market. And we recognize the handicap that poses. We would like to see a far more vibrant stock exchange operating in Guyana, with more Guyanese companies being willing to list. And if you're considering doing that, I would urge you to do it. You may very well set an example that would be replicated. So I would urge you to do that. If you're planning to place some of your instruments on the market, I would urge you to do that. Because we feel, like I said, we want more Guyanese companies listing. We want a far more liquid market, much deeper trading, much more activity. We want the market to be a place where Guyanese companies, or a market that Guyanese companies see as a viable option for raising financing, whether by way of equity or bonds. And I don't get the impression that that is currently the case. We are open to legislative and regulatory amendments if those are found to be needed, or indeed any other viable initiative that could potentially achieve those objectives. So I'm glad that you mentioned it. I would urge you to consider a transaction yourself if it's a good example that others might be able to replicate. I think that was the last question. From there, and you back to David.
Thank you very much, Minister. So we would have heard about the opportunities for business-to-business meetings. I would like to invite President Schleck-Cox to walk us through or talk us through what that will look like over the next few days. President Cox.
Good morning, everybody. Again. Let me join Khalidon in thanking Minister Singh for being here this morning. I think we got a lot more than we thought we were going to get. I have my team around there trying to really jig our agenda for doing business in Guyana because half of the presentations have been done. But it was really insightful to hear how open the government of Ghana is to exchanging ideas and opportunities with the delegation. And as usual, I'm going to encourage everybody to take advantage of the discussions and the things that we heard this morning. So just to give you a little snapshot of what will be happening over the next day and a half, I first want to recognize the Guyana Office of Investment, Go Invest. And Go Invest is Jampro's counterpart in Guyana. And I'm going to ask Kivian to just put her hand up over there. So Kivian has been, and her team have been hustling for the last couple of weeks, putting together a program of presentations that will now take place, that will walk us through what it really means to do business in Guyana, from all the different regulatory entities that are critical across sectors, as well as we have two other entities that are here with us this morning, the Guyana Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Guyana Manufacturing and Services Association. And they're also here to talk about it from a private sector perspective and what they as industry associations have been doing with private sector companies here and what they can do for you as companies looking to do business in Guyana. So both of them will speak a little bit about that this morning. All three entities and a number of other entities that we've kind of developed relationships with over the past few weeks have been working on business-to-business meetings for this afternoon and tomorrow. Each of you would have gotten emails with your different meetings that have been scheduled, and those persons will be coming in during the course of this afternoon and tomorrow after our group session like this. So those sessions now, of course, will take place on the other side of the room and pretty much anywhere that we can grab to have those meetings. So I want to thank Minister Singh again for being here. Looks like I'm handing over to Minister Hill to wrap up before we have to go off to our meetings. And then I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of Shanique Edwards. She's the Jampro Manager for Exports, Agribusiness Exports, and she will be the moderator for the Doing Business in Guyana session that will follow this right now. So thank you, everybody, and continue to have a really good day.
See why she's the head of Jamaica and Kelly Dawn is the head of Jamaica Special Economic Zone Authority. Bright, young, women. What I want to say an amazing thank you to Dr. Singh. Now you guys can just imagine when you have an economy that has recently declared 11 billion barrels of oil, an economy that is growing 50, 30, 40, 60% per year, all kinds of high numbers, you are extremely busy. That he has found time on a Monday morning to spend so much time to us is amazing. And it's a good sign of the friendship between Guyana and Jamaica. And I want to give him a very personal. I have been saying this in Jamaica, and I'm saying this before Dr. Singh, the Minister of Finance and everything else in Ghana. Ashni has been a great friend of Jamaica, but I've been saying to you guys, and you see how many of you are young, I'm just so happy that you're doing this now. The friendship between Guyana and Jamaica is amazingly strong. The partnerships between Guyana and Jamaica must be unbreakable strong. And yes, I wanted to talk about government, but I want to do what they was doing, what other Jamaican companies have done. Come over here, find Guyanese partners who have access to the government arrangements and build partnership with them. While sitting down there, I've sent out some texts to say, hey, you have to get on there and get on your partnership. Yes, you can ask about the government, but you know, businessmen are moving and women are moving much faster. So get involved. I bring you here, yes, to hear from Dr. Singh, the big picture, but for you to get in there and get into the granular stuff of building business partnerships. So listen, once you build business partnership, my good friend Sam, in the mining business, must be here. You've mined all over the world from Australia to Russia, I believe. So you know what has to be done. Meetings will be set up between Hart, TVET, and Mona Business School and the private people here, but get to the private sector because that's where the government's money is going to run to. Donald and his colleague from the minister, anywhere minister goes, Donald is there. So, you know, you have to get to Minister Singh. You have them. So the arrangement, the meetings that we have to meet with TVET. Is that true? Raise a hand, that's it. And please remind me of your first name, your colleague. Krishma, I'm meeting, I think, for the second time. And she also is there to help you. And see, he's not only come, but brought his help. Jamaica, you can get a bigger, better red carpet. For God's sake, use it. Now, one thing Dr. Singh said that I'm going to comment on. Notice he said Guyana existed before oil. And what he outlined is that Guyana's government, led a large part by the Minister of Finance, managed the economy well. We do not have oil in Jamaica. Bauxite is now on the back foot. But what we have done in the last 7 to 8 years is manage an economy so really exceptionally well that the Financial Times said, go to Jamaica and see how you fix your economy, talking to some very big economists. Brookings Institute then said, oh, Jamaica is exceptional, and this is how you do it. Exceptional, my foot. What was exceptional is that we made hard decisions and stuck by it, which Guyana did before they had oil. So you can see the relationship between Guyana and Jamaica is synergistic, apart from the fact that we absolutely love each other. We have always respected each other and cared for each other. I can't give you a better red carpet. For God's sake, invest, put the services here, and invite Guyanese investors to invest in Jamaica, which has an economy that and a governance that is well run. One last thing before the minister. Every single one of you Jamaican business people who come here, you follow the rules. We do not break rules. You do not excel by breaking rules. You come here, there is no support for you if you break the rules from Jamaica. You have the biggest support from me and the government of Andrew Holness if you support the rules and excel in Ghana. God bless you. God bless you, Dr. Singh. Thank you.
Refresher break. Reconvene at 11 minutes.
It has been said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move into our refreshment break now, and then we're going to reconvene in this room at 11. Ministers, thank you so much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. See you back here at 11.